Hi guys, James at RampantLionReviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we are going to stick to Sweden and we're going to head back up towards Gothenburg, Göteborg as you would say in Swedish, the Swedish craft beer capital. And this is a brewery who you have seen me review many things from. So we're going to go to Stigbergets Bryggeri once again, and this time we're having a little look at the Stiggy Fingers, which is another IPA coming in at 7% ABV. This one was released I believe on like the 1st or 2nd of December through the local and småsig assortment that you get every month through Stigbergets, and hopefully it's another interesting beer. I do like the artwork on this one, I have to say. So yeah, we'll see how we get on with this one. It seems like quite a while, or it feels like quite a while since I last had a Stigbergets beer, but you know, it was just back at the end of November, start of December rather. You know, it's not been that long, but since I've been away in Japan and drinking all the sake and Japanese beers and stuff, it does feel like a little while. But hopefully this is another good beer. From what I gather, this is one of the more, you know, this one isn't quite as hazy as some of the ones that they've had before, so I'm really curious to see how it turns out in that regard. But you know, I've had some good experiences with this brewery in the past, and hopefully this is another one, and I hope that you guys enjoy my take on this beer as well. So anyway, as is usual with my reviews then, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery before we taste the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that I've done from Stigbergets Bryggeri before. No doubt there will be some more at some point in the fairly near future. There's all the usual social media down there as well. If you want to see more reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The whole channel of course has a geography based tagging system, so you can go into the home page and search for beer based on country, city, state, county, prefecture, whatever it is you're interested in. Do check out the playlists of beers from different countries. There is one there for all the Swedish beers that I've reviewed for you. That's constantly being added to. And as always, please do get in touch and let me know some of the other beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me review. It's always great to hear from you guys that are watching the videos, and the support that you show the channel is hugely appreciated. So anyway, to tell you a little bit about Stigbergets Bryggeri then, on to the brewery notes. So, Stigbergets Bryggeri, as I mentioned to you before, are based in Gothenburg on the west coast of Sweden, and it was founded by Nils Hultkrantz and Richard Simonsson, and the pair own two bars that share the one kitchen. This is the Bar Kino and the Hagabjörns Cafe, which are located on Linnegatan in Gothenburg, and these both opened back in 2007. The building that you'll find these two places in is an independent cinema, and Bar Kino is basically in the basement. You go to it from the outside, and the Hagabjörns Cafe is the one that's kind of in the main lobby of the cinema. They have some really interesting films on there that I hadn't actually seen before. It's mainly a kind of Swedish independent sort of type cinema, that, so definitely worth looking at if you're into those kind of things. But originally the idea with Stigbergets Bryggeri was to brew a few beers that they could sell in the bars, and this led to them kegging their beer and selling it on to other pubs, and eventually to bottling them, which began in November of 2014. The original beers that they brewed were mainly the English and German styles of beer, but of course in more recent times they've become famous for are well known and respected for the more hoppy American styles of beer. The original head brewer was Ole Andersson, and he's the co-owner of OO Brewing, so he's now working full-time with them. He was replaced for a period of time by Barnaby Struve as well, who was the vice president at Three Floyds. But they've also recently opened up their new brewery at Partihallarna. They brew 5,000 litre batches at a time there, and they're also working on some sour beers these days too. And some of the sour beers are pretty good, I have to say. But they also started selling their beers in these 440ml cans. I believe that was, you know, the end of 2018 they started doing that, if I remember correctly. And this means that they'll be able to export a lot more beer as well. But at the moment they've got a brew team of Ollie Banks, who used to work for Beavertown in London, a very good brewery in its day, and Lucas Monroyd, who used to work for All In Brewing, one of the gypsy breweries around Gothenburg. They also open up the brewery every so often to host a bar, and they're currently working to open up a bar in Stockholm, from what I gather. So yeah, lots of interesting things going on with Stigbergets just now. In recent times they've become a lot more prolific, you know. About 3 years ago or something, just about the time that Ole Andersson was leaving, they were only releasing beers once every kind of like 3 months or something like that, from what I remember through the small partiers. But you know, since the Systembolaget system has changed a little bit, you know, Swedish breweries can release their beers every month through Systembolaget, which is great. and you know, they're sending a lot more of their different beers out to like Denmark and things, into places like Glassbank and .sa and all of this kind of thing. So yeah, interesting developments at Stigbergets. But you know, they're very famous, of course, for the GBG Beer Week, now known as the New and Improved GBG Beer Week. The amazing haze. There was also Muddle as well, and I never got the chance to try Double Muddle. I would have loved to have a go at that one actually. So hopefully they re-release that sometime soon. But yeah, an interesting brewery, this one. One of the ones who really helped kind of put the hazy IPA on the map here in Sweden. So definitely worth trying if you get the chance. And it's always interesting to try new and different beers from them as well. And you can check out my out and about video that I did at the Bar Chino and the Hagabion's Cafe as well. It's the kind of unofficial bar, if you like, of Stigbergets and OO Brewing in Gothenburg. So yeah, that's all you need to know about them for the moment. If you want to learn more, of course, check out the brewery website. You can follow them on Facebook and Instagram. You can do the same for the Bar Chino and the Hagabion's Cafe. And of course you can check out the Rate Beer and Untappd profile as well to see all the different beers that they've done. So yeah, let's get on and have a taste of this one then. I'll let you have a little look at the artwork of this before we open it up. There you can see a little bit of a kind of almost Halloween themed, so yeah, almost it's a little bit like, you know, the Ghostbusters ectoplasm or whatever it is. It reminds me of that actually, so a kind of almost Halloweeny retro type. It reminds me a little bit of some of the old Scooby-Doo artwork as well, to be honest with you. I'm not sure if that is intentional, but I do like the artwork on this one. A 7% IPA. This, if I remember correctly, most of the IPAs that you'll find from Stigbergets tend to be sort of 6.5 as well actually. I can't remember if the other ones I've had more recently have been a bit higher. But yeah, 7% IPA this one. Black top on the can. Best before the 7th of May 2020. So without further ado, let's get this guy out and we will get on with the tasting then. Very curious to see how this one turns out. And I'll tell you straight away, when you open this one up, it smells very, very nice. I've got a feeling there might be a bit of Galaxy in this one, to be honest with you. Galaxy's becoming a very popular hop amongst the Swedish brewers. Oh, it smells very, very juicy. So yeah, well, obviously I think I've told you a bit of a lie. It seems just as hazy, if not more, than some of the other ones that I've come across from Stigbergets. But look at that. If I hold this up to the light, it's definitely a very kind of pale, sort of not the palest of yellow that you're going to come across, but a lovely, quite bright, hazy yellow colour, this one. There's a solid finger and a half of a frothy, I would say slightly cream coloured head, not a perfect white in my opinion. One or two big bubbles sticking towards the side of the glass and a few little ones just heading up towards the bottom of that head there. But you know, overall it looks pretty nice, and you know, pretty much what you would expect from an IPA these days. As I say, I was expecting this one to be a little bit less hazy than some of the other Stigbergets ones, but obviously I have been proved wrong with that. So I mean, this one, it's not one of the soupiest ones that I've come across, but it's getting close to that kind of end of it. It is a pretty damn hazy beer, this one. You know, you will find ones less hazy than this, you will find a few that are kind of more hazy and thicker than this as well. So yeah, nothing overly surprising about the appearance of this one. Let's have a look at the aroma then and see how we get on. So yeah, that's a nice, it's straight away, this is quite a pungent New England IPA in my mind. There's a lot of passion fruit coming out of this one. I wouldn't be surprised if this is Galaxy hopped. There's the level of pungency you get from the passion fruit in this is quite you know, it's quite an obvious sign of Galaxy. The other thing I think it could perhaps be would be like Idaho 7. That's got quite a strong passion fruit note to it as well, from what I remember. Of course, when you have Simcoe was always the classic passion fruit hop. It's a little bit more milky and softer in the passion fruity notes. But yeah, the aroma of this one, definitely a lot of passion fruit. There's a bit of a darker grapefruit to it as well, but that sits in the background. I think it leans more towards a slightly brighter passion fruit, but those are two very pungent types of tropical fruit in my opinion. Yeah, some nice mangoes in there. Maybe a bit of a kind of lemon limey note. There is something sort of zesty about this one on the front of the nose, maybe a kind of lemon limey. Could it be a bit of Centennial or something that's in here? Or could it be a bit of Citra, and the lemon limey notes that you get from Citra sometimes are a little bit more prominent. So yeah, in terms of the fruitiness, I would go with that. Mainly passion fruit, A little bit of grapefruit, some juicy sort of mangoes underneath there as well, but also a sort of lemon limey quality on the front of the nose too. So that's quite it's quite an interesting combination. That if it's lemon and lime, it could just be Citra on its own, but if not, it could be you know, it could be a little bit of that how do you say? It could be a sort of Centennial mixer. I mean, Equinox the other one for lime, so Centennial Equinox maybe? Who knows? But yeah, a nice kind of quite pungent fruity aroma on this one. I have to say, a balance between tropical fruit and a bit of the more zesty things. In terms of the green side of the hops, I would say there's a little bit of it's quite a big floral one this. There's a bit of the lighter grassiness, but mainly this one is leaning towards the floral end of things. I don't get too much in the way of pine resin. There is a little bit of it there, a little bit of pine resiny note coming out of it. A little teeny bit of earthiness perhaps too, but yeah, mainly it's a big floral note on the green side of the hops. The malt base is quite interesting as well. It's a little bit hard to get the malty notes out of this one because of how prominent the sort of the green side of the hops and the fruity side are. For me, you can smell a little bit of the wheaty quality. I think the wheat is the most prominent thing in the malt base of this, and it just gives you a little bit of that almost astringent quality. So yeah, a little bit of wheatiness coming out of this one. But you've also got a little bit of that oaty creaminess and a wee bit of biscuit, but I would say it's really the wheaty, the wheaty notes that are coming out of this one most prominently. So yeah, quite a pungent smelling hazy IPA, this one, in my mind. So that's an interesting thing. It's one of the more pungent ones I remember having from Stigbergets over the last little while. But that said, I can't actually remember what the name of the last Stigbergets beer that I had was, because I've been focusing on sakes and some of the Japanese beers over the last little while. I feel like my mind has been wiped a little bit, to be honest. But yeah, one of the more pungent smelling hazy IPAs that I've had from Stigbergets in a little while, if memory serves me correctly. So yeah, let's have a taste of this one then and see how we go. And I think actually the last IPA I would have had from Stigbergets was the Julius, and that makes sense because it was modelled on the Julius from Treehouse, which is a more kind of smooth, creamy sort of thing. This one's definitely a little bit more kind of towards the Trillium end of the spectrum, quite pungent and quite bitey, if that makes sense. So yeah, let's have a taste of this one then and see how we get on. This one is the Stiggy Fingers, a hazy New England Swedish West Coast IPA, whatever you want to term it, from Stigbergets Bryggeri in Gothenburg here in Sweden. Let's get stuck into this one, released at the start of December 2019. Slanja, skål, kampai. Yeah, it's pretty nice, that actually. It's very smooth to drink. That's the first thing you'll notice about it, I have to say. I really like that. That really just hits the spot. It's got a hell of a lot of flavour to it, and also everything that you would expect of a sort of hazy type IPA. But it's just got a nice, to me this one comes across as a little bit more crisp, if that makes sense. And I really appreciate that about this beer, I have to say. So thumbs up to Stigbergets. It just kind of shows you, you know, you can play around with styles quite a lot. You can change the mouthfeel, you can change how pungent the malt base is, you can change how pungent the hops and stuff are, and it gives you a completely different feel to the beer. But this is nice. I wouldn't hesitate to drink this again. So yeah, where to start with this one? Let's go for the malty side of things then. So the first thing I would say that I notice about this is that the aroma gives you the impression that there's going to be quite a lot of wheat in this one, but I find the malt base in this really very smooth rather than anything else. It's got quite a nice light, almost crisper quality to it, so you feel that nice light sort of pale malty quality just blanketing the middle of your tongue. And on top of that, if you go to the centre of the palate, you will get a little bit of the oatiness out of it, and you can also feel the wheaty notes just thickening up a little bit, but the wheat is nowhere near as pungent as you might get from, for example, from some of the other beers that you'll get, but from the aroma as well. It gives you the impression in the aroma that it's a lot kind of more wheaty than it actually is. Yeah, that's it really is a very, very nice tasting beer, this one. You have to try this for yourself. This is one, I mean, as I always say, beer is subjective, but this is one that really just ticks all the boxes for me. It's just got a really nice, the mouthfeel in particular, we'll talk about that later of course, but this one really just ticks the boxes for me. I like how this goes together. People might disagree with that, but this one I like. So in the middle of the palate as well, you get a little bit of a biscuity sweetness out of this one. It's a little bit like a kind of McVitie's digestive sort of thing, and it's in the very centre of the palate, but that's quite minimal. You notice it a little bit more into the aftertaste in my opinion, but underneath that, like I say, a little bit of the oaty quality. You can feel the slightly thicker wheaty notes in there as well, but you also get that kind of base of pale malt. I want to say there's a little bit of a kind of Pilsner malt towards the back of the palate there as well. There is just an element of crispness to this, and I've noticed that's a bit of a trend recently amongst the Swedish and Danish. I don't know about the Norwegian brewers, but amongst the Scandinavian brewers there seems to be a bit of a trend of putting some Pilsner malt in these beers these days, and it really gives you just a lovely level of crispness to it actually. I like that little touch that they've started doing. Yeah, malt base on this is really nicely done, I have to say. On the hoppy side of things, this one is nice and juicy. I think it's just, I think I've got this one again just at the right sort of age, if you like. I'm not sure exactly how old the can would be, but like I say, this was released at the start of December and I ordered it in at the start of January, so I'm guessing they might have brewed a second batch and released that to Systembolaget. But yeah, in the back corners of the palate, you get a nice, there's a little teeny bit of earthiness, but as you come further forward from that, you get the nice kind of floral, aromatic-y qualities to the beer. It's not really pine resinous at all, it's definitely more of a nice floral quality that you get from this one. And then round the very front curve of the tongue, it's just that little bit lighter and more grassy, in my opinion, and I like that about it. And behind the front curve of the palate, of course, that's where you get that nice oily bubble where the fruity, juicy esters start to push their way out of the beer, and you know, they add a very nice kind of touch to the beer. We'll get the rest of it out there. Look at the head on that beer, by the way, awesome. But yeah, let's look at the fruity side of things. So yeah, this one for me is quite, it's really got a very kind of, it feels like quite a light, zesty, juicy sort of thing to this one. I don't know if that's, this one to me feels like it's quite fresh, to be honest with you. So I do think they've made a second batch of this and then it's been released again towards the end of December or early January. I think this, I'm sure I made this order on like the 10th or so of January. And then they got it, it took them a few days actually, it took them almost a week to actually get it into the shop, but it arrived a few days before I came home. But this one to me, it's got a nice, kind of, the oily qualities you get out of this are just a little bit wetter, which is interesting, but the actual fruity flavours, the fruity flavours for me, if you go to the back of that oily part, you get the passion fruit, definitely, and the passion fruit, I think it comes across as a bit juicier in the beginning, but then you get that slightly darker sort of resonating sort of quality that you get from passion fruit. So that more pungent flavour that you get from passion fruit comes out a little bit later in the flavour in my mind, but it comes across as juicy at the start. You move forward from that, it becomes a little bit more sort of mangoey and papaya. So I mean, maybe there could be a bit of citra in here, I'm not sure, but I do think it's maybe a bit pineapple-y as well. So in fairness, it could, I do think there's galaxy in this, but whether there's citra mixing in with it, I'm not quite sure. The sort of lemon limey qualities that I was picking up in the aroma in this, they don't really come out in the flavour in my mind. I think this one could either be straight up Galaxy or Citron Galaxy, or maybe Idaho 7 and Galaxy or something like that. There is, like I say, it's passion fruit. You move further forward, it gets a little bit more mangoey. There's some sort of pineapple-y, papaya type notes in there, and then on the front part of the palate there might just be a tiny little bit of a very light limey character, something like that. You do get just a little bit of a kind of zestiness on the very front edge of your tongue, and I mean that could be Centennial or Equinox, but I think with all the other flavours that are in there, I don't think that's overly limey. That's overly likely rather. I think the limey flavours would be a bit more obvious if it was Equinox, or the lemony flavours would be a bit more obvious if it was Centennial. So yeah, I've got a feeling that this one is either Idaho 7, Galaxy, and maybe Citra as well. One of those two, and then the Citra added in. I'm not sure. I like playing guess the hops with these beers, as you know. But yeah, quite a juicy. It's not the most pungent of passion fruits that you're going to come across from Galaxy hop beers. It's got a nice level of juiciness to it though, and you get those lovely softer tropical fruit notes as well. So, you know, you've got a bit of what you want from the pungency side of things, but you've also got the lighter juicy side of things that you'd probably more readily associate with the hazy IPA. So yeah, in terms of the mouthfeel then, I would say mid-bodied. Carbonation in this one, it has a degree of crispness to it. Like I was saying, it feels like there might be a little bit of Pilsner malt in this beer, just towards the back of the palate. You just get that kind of light, that just crisp type quality to it. So yeah, definitely a little bit of that in my mind. So it's quite smooth, little tiny touch of sweetness, but mainly quite a smooth but slightly crisp malt base in my mind. In terms of the hoppy bitterness, I think we're looking at maybe 40 IBUs in this one. Maybe, yeah, I think about 40 is a fair guess. I don't think it even goes up to about 50. I mean, if it's going to be anything, it will be a little bit lighter than that. But some nice, oily, but also quite juicy, fruity qualities to this one. The fruitiness in this is what makes it quite interesting, I have to say, and also the smoothness of the malt base. This is one that definitely comes across in the aroma as slightly different. You know, you would, if you tried the aroma of this one, you would predict it as being slightly different compared to what comes out in the actual flavour. But it's a lovely, lovely beer, and cool to try this one for you. This is one that I was really keen to try, and I thought I'd missed it, so I was glad that I was able to get a can of this in my order at the start of January. So thumbs up to Stigbergets Bryggeri once again, and definitely cool to review my first beer from them again after being back from Japan. So yeah, let's leave it at that for this one. This one is the Stiggy Fingers. A 7% hazy IPA from Stigbergets Bryggeri in Gothenburg here in Sweden once again. Really nice beer, and I recommend you have a go at this one. To me, this feels quite different from some of the other things that they've done recently, so check it out if you get the chance. But yeah, once again, thank you for watching my reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comment section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from Stigbergets Bryggeri as well. And I'm sure we'll return to these guys at some point in the fairly near future. Thank you again for watching, and I will catch you guys very soon. Slàinte, skål, cheers, kampai.